Bloodstained Path. Namali lived in a small rented room in Colombo, working long hours at a garment factory. Her family, consisting of her younger sister Priya and their mother Susila, lived far away in a remote village called Matathoda. Namali went to her village once every 2 months to visit her mother and younger sister. Namali often missed them but rarely had time to visit. However, Namali arranged for her monthly salary from her job to be sent to her home. One evening, as Namali was getting ready to leave work, a fellow worker approached her. "Namali, you've got a message," he said, handing her a piece of paper. Her heart sank as she read it. "Come home immediately, Priya." Mother, who suffers from asthma, came to her mind. Maybe the asthma must have worsened again, thought Namali. It was already past 5 p.m., but Namali knew she had to leave right away if she wanted to catch the last bus to her village. The journey was long, and by the time she reached the isolated village of Matathoda, it was almost midnight. The bus dropped her off at the end of a narrow, unlit road. She still had to walk a considerable distance to reach her home. The night was eerily silent, with only the sound of her hurried footsteps echoing through the darkness. Unfortunately, Namali had to walk through an old graveyard. As she approached an old graveyard, a chill ran down her spine. She quickened her pace, trying to ignore the ominous shadows cast by the moonlight. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Akka, sister." Namali froze. Out of the darkness emerged her younger sister Priya, looking pale and disheveled. Namali sighed in relief and rushed to embrace her. "Priya, what are you doing here at this hour? I was so worried. I thought you might be scared walking alone," Priya replied softly, her voice oddly distant. Relieved but puzzled by Priya's unusual demeanor, Namali held her sister's hand as they continued walking toward their home. But something felt wrong. Priya was unusually quiet, and her once cheerful face seemed void of emotion. "Are you okay, Priya? Did something happen?" Namali asked. Priya shook her head but didn't say a word. As they neared their house, Priya suddenly stopped. "Priya, what's wrong?" Namali asked, turning to face her sister. "I can't go any further, Akka. I need water," Priya said faintly. Concerned, Namali reached out to support her sister. But as she touched Priya's arm, her hand came away wet. In the dim light, she saw her fingers were smeared with blood. "Priya, what happened to you?" Namali cried, her voice trembling. Priya looked up, tears welling in her eyes. "He stabbed me, Akka. Sumith. He." Before she could finish, Priya collapsed to the ground, her breath faltering. Panic-stricken, Namali screamed for help and ran the rest of the way to her house. As she approached, she saw an unusual crowd gathered outside. The flickering light from oil lamps illuminated the tear-streaked face of her mother. "Amma, Priya is hurt. We need to help her," Namali shouted as she reached the gate. Her mother looked at her with hollow eyes and whispered through sobs, "Priya left us, Namali. She's gone." Namali's world spun. "What are you talking about? She's right there." Unable to process her mother's words, Namali pushed past the crowd and entered the house. Inside, she froze. In the middle of the room lay a coffin, and inside it was Priya's lifeless body. Namali staggered back, her knees giving way. No, this can't be. I just walked with her." The villagers murmured among themselves, exchanging fearful glances. One elderly man finally spoke up. "They say the dead sometimes return to reveal the truth." Namali's heart pounded as her mother sobbed uncontrollably. It all began to make sense. Priya's distant voice, her cold touch, the blood. Suddenly, Namali remembered Priya's final words. Sumit, he stabbed me. Sumit is another young man from the village who frequently troubled Priya by asking for her love. A cold rage replaced her fear. She now knew who had taken her sister's life, and Priya's spirit had returned to ensure her killer was brought to justice. As the clock struck midnight, Namali stood, her eyes blazing with determination. She would not let Priya's death go unavenged.